me isn't enough. Now there's got to be two. All right, I want to show you something fun. See if you like it or not. I'll try to do it quickly. Let's all go to our cash flow projections together. Let's go to years 1 through 10. Let's highlight all of those values right now. And we're going to plot just a very simple line graph to begin with. So if I come over here and I choose Insert, from the Insert menu, just use the drop down next to the line and just insert the most basic line graph in the world. And it should dump that right in front of you. Click into the chart title, and let's just call that gross revenue so that we at least know what we are looking at. Thank you. Oh, I wanted to do grow, like big. But doesn't it, it's like the S that looks like a B. All right. Right. And so we know that as of right now, nothing is different. Nothing has changed. Let's just see how this might work, though. I'm going to go ahead and ask you, just pull it down underneath the cash on cash returns. And let's just center in and highlight it so that we can see. What I'm starting to do now is what we call model stress testing. I'm trying to see whether or not my model is working properly. From here, go back to your rent roll. And in your rent roll, let's go over into where we can make our first effective rent increase, which is in N1. In N1, let's just put 5% in there. And then go back to your cash flow projections and see whether or not your graph responded. Great. From there, do a little Control Z, undo, just so that the graph resets itself. Okay? All right. From there, on the graph, I want you to press the plus sign over here, and I want you to add on the legend to the graph. And when you add on the legend, then notice it should say series number 1 now. From there, go to the chart design menu and choose select data. Chart design, select data. And do you see the series number 1? Highlight it, click edit. For the series name, type the word projected. And click OK twice so that the graph should say my values in blue are what are projected. All right, here's where the fun trick comes in. Go back to the rent roll. Right mouse click on top of the name rent roll. I'm waiting. Move or copy and create a copy of this thing and put it on top of the sources and uses page. So I'm going to create a copy of this thing so that when I click OK, I should have rent roll 1 and rent roll 2. They're the exact same, yes? Rent roll blank and rent roll 2. All right, here's where the fun comes in. All right. I'm going to put my cursor up in B3. I'm going to select all the way down and all the way over so that I'm picking all of my values. Copy all of your values and then paste them in as values. that? Because you know this, on rent roll, when I look at this number right here, those are formulas, aren't they? When I'm on my natural rent roll, those are formulas. When I go to rent roll 2 now, what are those? They're just values now. Yeah, that's my guy, Muhammad. You're following. Okay? Here's where the magic comes in. Now go back to your cash flow projections and go to this graph. Raslav, you all right over there? No? I'm selected on my graph right now, and I'm going to go to chart design. I'm going to select data. And wow, whoa, what were those sounds that just came out of my mouth? Down where it says, oh, Mac, I know this one's different. Yours is going to be a plus sign. Where it says Legend Series add. Add a new series. And you're going to type in the name of this series is your baseline. Baseline means what we started off believing. Projected means after we make changes. Baseline, my initial set of assumptions. Projected, after I make changes. And then the series values that you are going to use for baseline will be off of rent roll number 2. Oh, shoot, did I have you do the rent roll and not the cash flow projections? Yeah, I totally just goofed up. That's all right. I'll figure it out. All right, ignore that. Here we go. It'll work. All right, we don't need the rent roll 2. We needed to do it on cash flow projections. So that's all right. Now you're not behind. Okay? Look, we're right here. We're right here. Starting, forget everything I said for the last 8 minutes. Start at cash flow projections. Right mouse click on the name cash flow projections, move or copy, create a copy of cash flow projections, and put it on top of your debt detail. Sure. Left mouse click on cash flow projections so that you have it selected. Right mouse click on cash flow projections so that you can move or copy it. We're going to create a copy of it and put it right on debt detail so that instead of 2 rent rolls, we have 2 cash flow projections. That's where I goofed up originally. Then on cash flow projections 2, these are all sums, aren't they? Copy all those sums and paste them back over the top of themselves as values so that they are not formulas, but instead they are values. All you do, I made these numbers instead of formulas. That's all we did. Yeah, just that one. How did I do that? So by copying them originally and then pasting them as values. Now I can show it. I swear there's magic that you're going to love. Back to cash flow projections tab, highlight the graph. From the graph, chart design, select data. Add baseline. So that your baseline data is off of cash flow projections 2 bring all of the effective gross revenue numbers in on cash flow projections 2. So that now, when I click OK, and then click OK again, look at the graph. I've just got one line because my projected and my baseline are the exact same. That's all right. We'll get you there in a second. I'll show you the magic because here's where it's fun. The reason we do that is this. Go to rent roll now. In your rent roll, in 2026, so in N1, change that back to 5%. And then when you go and you look at your graph on cash flow projections, what do you see? You don't see anything? What's that? Okay. That tells me that you have a small problem. You're on those ones are all good. Cash flow projection. I was you're still stuck in the graphic. Where's your logo? So I see I have one line there, one line there. To go back to your road total, you changed it to 5%. And the numbers they went up over here, but they didn't filter it over here, which tells me that we made them. So when we come here to go chart design, select data, projected, when we look at the projected is coming off of cash flow projections. That's also looking at cash flow projections. That one, look at calculation. Oh, and they're both nice. Okay. Well, why did that one not flow? You're close, but you got something you can. See, so that one is coming from here. Oh, look, you don't have a formula up here. This is where you have equals. You have to go to the rent roll. You got to pick that one. And then you have to do the same thing. Equals. And the rent roll being all these ones here. And then you need to do those all the way down. And then where's your graph? Find your graph. See, now it's working. So go and make your changes back on your original cash flow projections. Did you get it to do this? No? Okay. Okay. So here's the point, and I'm just gonna show you. Things are dynamic and change in real estate all the time, specifically with our tenants and with our rents. So you heard Matt saying the other day, for example, what if I lose my biggest client? He will ask someone like me to do something like that for him so that I can go and look and say, hey, Matt, this is what's going to happen to you exactly. If you start changing around, your baseline rents will go up from that price change, but then that growth won't be as significant because you're going to start losing tenants. So if I reset that to show you, This is a dynamic graph that I use that then will allow me to say, look, my projected and my baseline are the exact same, but if I go and start making changes to my rent roll, I should be able to see what happens if we lowered our rents by 5%. And so it's just a little tool that we can build in that helps us with dynamic decision making. The process that I used to show you, I built a line graph where the line graph was looking at the rents. And the first plot was dynamic. When I make changes, the graph changes. And then I compared that to a graph where nothing changes, so that I could always look at this versus its point of origin, that versus its point of origin. So that is how you build a dynamic what if tool with inside of this thing. But it seems like we can circle back to that because not all of you got that. And do we only have a half an hour left? Oh yeah, well, let's keep going then because we got some stuff to do. So let's go ahead. You can just go ahead and you can hide that cash flow projections too. You don't need it. And if you don't like the graph, just go ahead and get rid of it. And we can play with it later. It's not critical to what we're working on. It was just an upgrade I was doing on the fly in class that maybe I shouldn't have done. Because now what we really have to do is come over to our debt detail and let's figure out what's it going to cost us to buy this building from the lender's perspective. If you were paying attention, you heard Matt talk a lot about the notion of underwriting the other day. Underwriting is just this concept of you have a lender who's trying to determine whether or not this property that we are going to fund is A, worth what we think it's worth, and B, the people we're going to lend to have the ability to pay us back. It's part of the credit evaluation process. So I'm going to have our little PDF open to the side with you. And the PDF you want to look at is page 16 of 20, so we can cross-reference and see how did we get all this to happen. So the debt detail tab is going to largely tell us, here is what we are going to be paying when we borrow, and what we pay will then impact the amount that we borrow and how the value that we owe the bank decreases over time as we continue to make payments on our debt. And this debt detail page is going to run pages 16, 17, 18, 19, and 19. And I already pre-formatted it for you. So a lot of debt detail will be easy. We're just going to pull stuff in. So let's start up here on acquisition price. Acquisition price is going to be equal to, off of your overview tab, this is the purchase price of the building. This is one of the biggest inputs into your model because it's where your negotiation happens. I can show you right now. I have text messages sitting right here. Where is this most recent one? I haven't heard from him in a while. Justin, Greg, Wes. Okay. Say it. Read that out loud. Run underneath Alvin. What does that say? Out loud so everybody can hear. Alvin. So I've got a question from a seller right now. Alvin, what's the most you would pay or offer for the lake lot? I will get a written offer written up for you to the seller. And my answer on the top is what? The number.
135,000.
135,000 is the number that I offered him. That's the number that would go into this cell of the model that I'm building. He wants $150,000 for it. The estimated tax value of the property is $93,000. The comparable research I've done has suggested it's worth about $120,000. I'm offering him $135,000, which is a $15,000 premium over what the market suggests. Now, between all of us, this piece of property is so important. This is being recorded. Don't message it to him. I'd give him 200 grand for it all day. Over 200 grand, I'm out. I want to settle on about 150, but I only offered 135 to start. That's the number that goes into the purchase price cell, because then I have to turn around and equals transmit that information to the bank. And the bank goes, oh, okay, you want to borrow $6 million? Are you going to buy a property that's $6 million? Well, then the bank says, I'll give you a portion of that then. The portion they'll give me is equals multiply the 6 million by, off of your overview, every bank will have a ratio that it uses about the percentage of the purchase price of the property that they're willing to fund. For a typical commercial property, it's about 75%, which means the bank should be willing to give me about $4.5 million. On this lake property, because there's no improvements on it, I actually want to pay $135,000, but the bank is only willing to loan me 60% of that. Oops, equals that times 0.6. So look what that means. If you're going to buy something for minimum 6 million and the bank's going to give you 4.5 million, that means I need to find $1.5 million from investors. Where over here on the lake property, if I pay 135, I'm going to need to come up with $54,000 from investors. And if he's able to push me all the way up to 200,000, look what that does. Now I have to raise $80,000 instead of $50,000. So part of the way you think about whether or not an investment is going to be worth your time is how much legwork am I going to have to do on raising investor capital? This is what I represent to you in your interviews with me. The bank is going to give you part of your money, but you're coming to me to ask me to be one of the investors on the deal. I'm part of your fundraising. And trust me, you don't want to have to raise more equity than necessary. It's a lot easier to ask for $50,000 than it is for $84,000. Okay, so now the bank will give me 4.5 million. So the interest rate is equals to, off of the overview page, Matt got off the phone with his lender from Midwest, and they said, we'll give you a 6.5% interest rate that we will amortize over 25 years. So I copied and pasted that reference because you make all of your assumptions onto the overview page, then you just pull them in to your subpages. All right. So then in year one, here's also a favorite little Excel trick. I'm going to hit shift and I'm just going to go to the right until I feel like letting go. I have my cursor on the number 1 and I'm going to shift and I'm just going to go to the right until I feel like letting it go. Because I'm going to, off of the home, go to cells and I'm going to format. All right, I got to figure this all this if I know. Yeah, it's over there. Okay. Sorry, it's off of cells, editing, something called fill, and I'm going to fill in a series where I take those and I linearly add 1. So just the defaults. And what that does is it just plots all those numbers for me. It is fill series, and then just the defaults by 1. Oh, and now Siri is doing things because I said fill series. Or for those of you who like this stuff, Alt HFIS enter. And then I only need through 25. So all that did, so I don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fill series. If you're not sure or you struggle when you're watching this at home, I actually give you the instructions down here for what we're going to do next. Okay? So here we go. In the beginning of year 1, you borrow $4.5 million. The annual payment on that thing looks like this. Formulas, insert function, and the function is called PMT for payment. And when I click OK, it walks me through then. What's the rate you're going to borrow at? 6.5%. What's the number of periods that you're going to borrow for? And the number right here is 25 years. How much will you borrow? Trick. I got to put a minus sign in front of this because of the way that Excel works. It's a nuance and a trick I can teach you later, but just so you know, it's minus then $4.5 million is the amount of the loan. And then I click OK, and it should tell me that I am going to owe $368,917 every year. Now I'm going to copy and paste that in just a minute. So I'm going to go back into the formula and let's just lock all 3 of those variables. Okay. The way the accounting works, 368,000 is going to be the amount of the cash flows. But the way the accounting works is that we have to do what's called amortizing the debt so that we know when you borrow, in the very beginning when you start to pay back, you are paying back mostly interest. The revenues that a lender gets is their interest. And the amount of your loan goes down very slowly until near the end when you are just paying down the amount of the loan and you've paid back most of the lender's revenues, their interest. So right here it says, calculate the annual interest by taking the beginning loan balance and multiplying it by the interest rate. So the amount of interest that we pay in year 1 is $292,500. Cross check. Does that work? Yep. Which then means the amount of debt you pay down is equal to the payment minus the interest. What that tells me then is the amount that amortizes in this first annual year is equal to that 76,417, so that at the end of my first year, I've borrowed $4.5 million. I've made a $368,000 payment, of which $292,000 went to interest, so that at the end of year one, I owe $4.423 million. So now that we have this, let's see what we need to do to be able to apply everything to the right. So if my annual interest is equal to interest rate times beginning loan, my interest rate sitting in B7, so let's lock the B7, but my beginning loan balance is going to change every year. So I'm going to leave that one alone and just lock on the B7 there. So now you should be able to copy and paste this all the way through year 25. So that in year two, my beginning loan balance is equal to last year's ending loan balance. In year two, then, I start off with 4.423 million. I make the same payment of 368,917. In that year, I pay a little bit less in interest, and I get to knock down a little bit more of my principal, so that the amount that amortizes in year two is 81,000, and therefore by the end of year two, I now owe only 4.34 million. Once you have year two, you should be able to copy and paste through the end, and then we should see by the end of the 25 years, how much do you owe? Nothing. Yeah. Cell C11 equals B11. So the beginning balance for the next year is equal to the ending balance from the previous year. Any question? Good. Good. Okay. Is equal to the amount of the principal that you paid down below. Yeah, this one's fun. It's interwoven in like 3 different ways. And then you subtract them off. Why this is important. You heard Matt saying the other day, for example, if after 5 years we decide to sell a building, the first thing we need to do is pay back the bank. So the question you need to be able to answer is, how much do we owe the bank? That is determined by this ending balance. Then any money that's left over, Matt then pays back the investors their original investment amount. If there's any money left over after that, then they split it 1 and 1. Matt gets 1, the investors get 1. Matt gets 1, the investors gets 1. So all of this is necessary to determine what your eventual cash payouts are. You buy the building, the bank's going to fund it. Next thing is, we need investors to fund it. So let's see if we can get ourselves through that in the next 10 minutes. Think we can do it? Let's go. Sources and uses. I think we can get this ripped out. Purchase price equals to, get ourselves over, Find your $6 million purchase price that we made an assumption for in the beginning. The 6 million is on the overview. Then closing costs, acquisition fees. Did I have this on the overview tab? Hold on, let me just double check. Did we key them in over here? I want to see on my debt if I put it over here. Refer rate return. No, we didn't. Okay. All right. Oops. Sources and uses. Okay. There we go. Okay. Acquisition costs, pre-funded reserves, transfer tax, and lender costs. Notice how those also say input cells. So let's just go ahead and cross-reference from our sources and uses in the answer key. We're just going to type the numbers that are presented to us right here because those are our inputs. So we need 2% of the purchase price goes to like paying for things like attorneys and things. We need like 10% of our purchase price goes to the side for like a savings account in case we need to replace windows or something. That the transfer tax is 0.75%. 0.75% is what you'll likely owe in the US, a local municipality, to prorate a portion of the taxes. And then the lenders actually get paid for you to actually use them to close that deal. So these three are going to be percentage of purchase price. And this one is going to be percentage of the loan. So acquisition cost is equal to 2% of the purchase price. I'm going to lock the purchase price because 2% of the purchase price is 120. And then I can copy and paste down because my pre-funded reserves are 10% of my purchase price and my transfer tax is less than 1% of my purchase price. I don't have that on there. Okay, we'll do it right there. The last one is the lender gets paid equals 5% multiplied by off of your debt detail, we're borrowing $4.5 million. There's a lot of exhaling going on in this room. You guys sound like my yoga class. Should we do some pranayama breathing in here? The loan we just did on the debt detail page. It's probably also on our overview page. It's not there? Oh, maybe we should add it. Then we can add all those things up. And now you can see one of the uses is going to be an additional $787,000. Or I haven't missed more. 225. What did I miss? 22.5, 45, 6. Oh, closing costs. We need just a plain data entry, 15,000 in here for our attorneys. So 15,000, you type it in. This one is just 2% of your acquisition costs is against your purchase price. This one is 10% acquisition cost against your purchase price, 0.75% times your purchase price. And then this last one is 0.5% of the loan amount. We're almost there. Then sum them up. Oops. Then sum them up. Gosh. And sum them up. Anybody got the 802,000 with me? Handful of us? All right. How much is our debt? Equals off of the debt detail page. We said over here we were borrowing 4.5 million because our mortgage on a percent of loan to value is equal to, we already used it on the overview page, we're using a 75% loan amount. So if you want to, you could add it over here. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all. You could do the total then. We need $802,000 in addition to our 6 million. This is really how much money you need to raise total to buy this property. That's how much money we need to come up with to buy this property. $6.8 million. It only costs us a 6 million purchase price. There's all those other costs associated with it. Ha! Some of them, yes. Get yourself a law degree. You can avoid the attorney taxes. Decide not to save any money in case the roof breaks, and just hope. Over here? Yeah, you can move it around if you'd like. You want to do it like that? Oh, okay. Yeah. Then if you do it like that, sure. Yeah, great. Great. Yeah, sure. I like it. Oh, yeah, I just reshuffled the page. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's excellent recognition. But you see, Zoe, how quickly it's just like, all right, fine. Just move it there. Yeah. All right. We're almost done. So check this out. So this part you may think about with your project. So here is what we know. Now you need $6.8 million, of which 4.5 is coming from debt. You want to do a little scratch work over here? If I take the 6.8 million minus the 4.5, there's my number I got to go raise. I have to go find $2.3 million from investors. If you think about it from your project's point of view, same thing. You're going to buy a property that's $1 million. You got to raise 1.1 million total. Dutch law says you can come up with 60% in debt. So you can get $600,000 worth of debt. Now you need to raise 400 and some $1,000. Where's that money coming from? This is the part where you can have fun with it and go, look, my team, each of us, and should I make it match what's in here? Yeah. Each of us on my team is going to put in $100,000. I'm just making these numbers up right now, by the way. And I'm cross-referencing what I'm seeing in my example. Then, right, we talked to Keisha's mom and dad, and each of them is going to put in $150,000. Sure. And then I got a rich grandma, and she's going to put $400,000 to $500,000 in. Right. And then you called Matt, and Matt's going to put $300,000 in. And then 325, 125. And then 200, 325, and 125. I don't know what it is in the Netherlands. You gotta find that out. Yep. Okay. So here's your big one in here then, right? Is this is part of what you need to start thinking about in your story. So right now, how much money do I have the ability to get my hands on? I've got the ability to raise 2.05 million based off of all the investors I've talked to, of which this is just a story. This is your team. These are friends and family. But ultimately, you need to say, hey, Professor Al, we want you to put in $250,000. And Professor Al, if you put in $250,000 equals that 250,000 multiplied by your preferred dividend amount that you're going to offer me. How much is my preferred dividend amount going to be equal to? It's going to be equal to, on your overview sheet, whatever it is you say that you're going to pay. And you can even tell me. You can pay me daily. I'd love that. You can pay me quarterly. That's normal. You can pay me once a year. That'll piss me off a little bit. But you're going to pay me then $20,000 a year. And then my $250,000 divided by all of the other investor funds. That's going to entitle me to roughly 11% ownership of your building. You go back and you fix the F4 on the D16 on your preferred, then I should be able to paste that in there, and I should be able to copy and paste that over there, and then take off the colors just so that I can focus on only myself. So does the 2.3 million that I'm raising from investors plus the amount of all of my debt, does that equal the 6.02 million that I need to raise? That last formula is just an equals true. Does my fundraising in total from debt and equity equal the total amount I need to do this deal? And as part of the deal, you need to tell me what I'm going to get in return for my contribution. So we're going to go ahead and stop there for today. We'll finish off this part when we are on our in class tomorrow, which if we come back and we look into our shared syllabus, I believe tomorrow we are in this room. Anybody know the room for tomorrow? Can someone look it up in the WhatsApp group? Where are we? R3 1.88. So I think down that. Oh, no, it's like right over here. Yeah, right over here. So tomorrow is Tuesday. We will finish up this investment modeling, and then we're going to have another guest speaker. And this guest speaker's focus is going to be on, if you want to fully stabilize and lease a building, you're probably going to need to do some renovation and construction. Let's talk about how you build out spaces to make them attractive to the market. We'll see you all tomorrow. I think I'm going to stop the recording, but before I do, give me just 1 second for all of you, please, because I know we have